James Smalls went up to Dr. Maya's show to discuss the problem he created for himself with us FBAs, and her show was filled with nothing but Pan Africanism scammers, opposition, including this Dr. Maya, because when the second rally for reparations hit, she was there, but in all actuality, her energy felt off to me. Something didn't sit right, with me with this chick, from the get go. You know what I mean? So basically, James Smalls was trying to backpedal off of, what he said about calling us FBA, agents of the CIA, this, that, or the other, to, try to convince us that our ears didn't hear, what our ears actually heard, So, yeah, and James Smalls came on there bad faith to begin with, saying that us FBAs are struggling to find our identity, this, that, and the other. We always knew that we were foundational Black Americans of the soil. You know what I mean? It's just that we had Pan Africanism scammers in our ear trying to convince us to look back to Africa when we should have been lifting up the soil. You know what I mean? Because we've gotten further now from identifying our lineage than Pan Africanism ever has gotten us. Pan Africanism, truth be told, is a dead brand. You know what I mean? So I got the audio and the video of this panel that Dr. Mayat had full of nothing but, Pan Africanism scammers, talking down upon our FBA lineage, trying to frame it as a group, you know what I mean? And they had two dudes on there, this so-called Dr. Ankh, you know what I mean? He was, coming with a lot of bad faith arguments. We really going to unpack him, but I'm going to just be, touching on the specific points of this video that stuck out to me the most to try to keep this video a little bit more shorter. So I got the audio and the video of this nonsense of, these panel full of, nothing but Pan-Africanism scammers, and we gonna walk through and make it do what it do, family. Fair use.
And see it. Mm-hmm. So I was just trying to make that point that those who foster and this division between those from the continent, the Caribbean, and those from the United States are playing in the hands of the U.S. government.
We ain't never had nothing to divide with these people. You know what I mean? These people come over here, with a lot of anti-FBA, rhetoric. They work in opposition to the positive strides we trying to bring in the FBA society. And these people are used as tools in the system of racism, white supremacy to go against us. They use them as buffers, to get out here and say we don't deserve no reparations, this, that, and the other. So through delineating, we getting a lot of stuff done. We making, a bunch of headway, and we clearing house, what this Pan-Africanism could have never did in a million years. You know what I mean? We've identified our lineage. We've locked it down. We're being exclusive now instead of all inclusive. And that's why cats is mad, because they can't exploit us no more. But let's continue.
Okay, that's so wrong. If anybody can see that as a negative, I don't understand.
You don't understand?
Negative.
So Professor James Small, at any point did you say
no?
Tariq Nasheed is an
FBA? I just talked to Sincere, the brother, a little while ago, because I'm gonna go on this show. I said
he acting as if our ears didn't hear what they actually heard. He damn sure did say we CIA, but I'm gonna come off of this family and I'm gonna go into this other cat who was on there coming with a lot of bad faith arguments, talking about Tariqism. You know what I mean? It's an ideology, trying to frame it, put the framework up that we somehow a group, which is a bunch of nonsense. And when they attack brother Tariq Nasheed, this is used as a proxy to go in there and attack all of our FBA lineage, without having to say it. But let me, find this timestamp, family. I'm gonna let it play from here. Fair use.
We gave people too much space in the first place. we gave people too much grace in the first place. We gave people too many passes and we looked past their flaws, because I want to be clear and I wanted to ask them, but I didn't want to, go, I'm kind of like a person that kind of stay in my place when I'm on somebody else's platform. So the thing is, I did want to ask though, and it doesn't need to be asked because I already know it. Like, so he already answered it, but I just wanted to be clear that what I heard him say is that FBA, he thought was a thing that was what people purported is a lineage.
It is a lineage, and anybody, trying to reframe what the FBA lineage is. They are opposition, and they put out here to spew these talking points. They're probably getting broken off. You know what I mean? In all actuality, because we keep hearing this narrative to where though people keep trying to frame us as a group, this, that, and the other, when everybody else under the sun gets to represent their lineage. Why, is it now become such a big problem that FBAs have identified our lineage and we representing it? You know what I mean?
And then he started saying these other things, which I call ideology and talking points and tenets of Tariqism, Nasheed.
See, now they're trying to frame it as a group, and some kind of cult, and we even hear that narrative coming down that we a cult, this, that, and the other. And these are just bad faith arguments because people don't like the fact that we've delineated and we've acknowledged our lineage. And they try to attack Brother Tariq Nasheed, but in all actuality, they really using, that as a tactic to target all of us. You know what I mean? Because you know how disrespectful this is for us to say what we are. We're foundational Black Americans. We ain't no generic Africans, and folks want to, keep on, saying that we Africans, that's very disrespectful. If y'all want Africa, fine, that's cool. Go and build y'all Wakanda or whatever y'all trying to have. But we're foundational Black Americans. We ain't got to look back to, Africa, to pull on no greatness. Our ancestors done some fly great things over here on American soil, and I'm proud of that. You know what I mean? And us turning a blind eye to them, and looking for some distant Africa, that's a slap in the face to our ancestors. You know what I mean? So if y'all want to go, build over there, go build over there, because Africa, from the looks of things, need the help. But stop trying to, tell us what our lineage is when we telling y'all, and we going to continue to tell y'all, that we're foundational Black Americans. Damn that.
Or whatever. And basically, this is what all people say. Because it was really.
Yeah, family, I'm gonna be moving right along because I'm trying to keep this video, relatively short and talk about the particular things that stuck out to me the most. Now I'm gonna get on to this doctor, Ankh, and he's truly an op. You know what I mean? He tried to talk bad about the museum, and say it's pseudo museum, this, that, and the other, but he ain't hating, and the man clearly was hating. You know what I mean? He just put that in there to make it seem as if he wasn't hating. But we with that FBA mindset, no, he was hating. You know what I mean? But let me find that. I think it's 124. We're going to let it play from here. Fair use.
Fire, fire, fire.
Let me find it. Let me find it.
Fire, fire.
I'm sorry. Sorry. Go ahead, brother. What you got to say?
Okay.
I'm a mute out.
This where we at.
And this Dr. Ankh, he's trying to say that all Black people, typically what we see coming from these pan-Africanists, that all Black people, came to America, via the slave trade. And that just, that's been debunked. You even have white historians that, put out books that, have said, that there was Black people in America, before Christopher Columbus, and that's just a bad faith argument, you know what I mean? And we ain't gonna have that. We're gonna put out the real for real, especially regarding our FBA lineage. But let's continue.
This is where the rubber meets the road. We're in a situation because we have people that tend to think that United States government,
and it's foolish of anyone to think that Black people weren't in America prior to, slavery, when Black people, were everywhere in the world first, you know what I mean? So it's foolish of them, you know what I mean? This is just, typically what we see coming down with that pan-Africanist, ideology. But let's continue.
or all of a sudden have clear understanding of who we are if we change the damn name. Craziest thing ever. You think
See, he's trying to, make the delineation all about a name change. No, we've delineated and, picked up our FBA lineage to not be erased. You got cats coming over here, from the diaspora, tethers, that undermine us, get in political office, talk about we don't need no damn reparations. They try to represent us on film and TV. And this is a way, for them to go ahead and erase our FBA lineage. And what we doing now, is being exclusive, gatekeeper to where though people can't come amongst us cosplaying, and, giving out representation to us, you know what I mean, and working to undermine the positive strides we trying to bring about. So it ain't just about a name change. It's about not being erased, because these tethers are used as buffers in a system of racism, white supremacy to undermine our best needs and interests as foundational Black Americans. So he's, trying to minimize the significance of us delineating and picking up the soil representing FBA. You know what I mean?
A name change going to make people see you more than how they already see you. They already know who you are. They got the records. This is an area, right, that I know Dr. Mayat researched in because she gave me the daggone.
This guy is a pure ops coming in bad faith, a pure ops.
Books. So just because you say FBA, nobody's going to think that all of a sudden, oh, that's a hell of a lineage. Boy, that name right.
And at this particular stage in the game, family, I question anybody saying that they are pan-Africanist. You know what I mean? Even if they from our FBA lineage, because more often than not, they work to, undermine and sabotage the positive strides we trying to bring into FBA society with that pan-Africanism mindset. Not all of them, but a great deal of them. So, I question anybody, even if they are of the lineage, with this pan-Africanism mindset. Pan-Africanism is a dead brand that couldn't move the needle for our people. If it could have moved the needle, it would have been did it. We getting, much headway now that we picked up the soil and representing our FBA lineage more than pan-Africanism could have ever done in a million years.
That really fit them, and we know they're a little bit different than the African Americans. Let me tell you what the FBA is. I'm going to say it. It's a pseudo operation from the start.
Here we go, family. We get into the nitty gritty now.
How do I know it's a pseudo operation? Because the museum itself is a pseudo museum. It's not a professional curated museum. It does not meet the standards.
It's not professionally and don't meet the standards because what he want to say is that it ain't got no white people funding it and backing it, with a piece of paper. And damn that, you know what I mean? This man is just mad, hating, that FBAs, we got our own museum, this, that, and the other, and he's just coming in, bad faith. He's opposition in all actuality. You know what I mean? He'll say he's not hating, but in all actuality, this man is clearly hating.
Okay, I'm gonna say this again. When I hear the word museum, I'm looking for a certain standard. I'm not looking for a whole bunch of pseudos and pseudo history. It does us no good now, to be honest with you.
And it's not pseudo history to say that, Black people were the first people in America. It's already been proven. You know what I mean? He just mad because, he can't push the narrative that he want with the pan-Africanism thing, that, Black people only touched America, when they came on the slave ship. And that's a bunch of nonsense. This man is clearly opposition. And that's why we out here standing on this kind of business, and putting out the real for real regarding our FBA lineage. You know what I mean? We ain't letting nothing slide at this particular stage in the game.
Your brother Tariq, he set out to do that. And I commend him for doing that. So don't get it twisted and say, aren't you hating? No, I'm saying this man is, as far as I know, he's never taken anybody's money. He said, I'm going to open up a museum. I was expecting a museum, but he didn't give us a museum. He gave us a pseudo-history museum. But at least he opened.
In your mind, that's the talking point you want to push out there. But in all actuality, we got a museum. You just mad because it ain't, white led and back, with white people's capital. We put in there, what represents our people, from a grassroots level, so you could be mad all you want. We're going to keep doing us, and this FBA freight train, going to keep on coming through. And anybody that steps in the way of that, they going to get moved and pushed to the side. I keep telling folks.
Opened it up, so I'm not on that. I'm concerned with what I'm always concerned with is information. So just because you call yourself FBA, right, doesn't mean
you couldn't be concerned with information, as much as you promoting that you are, because a lot of that pan-Africanism stuff has been debunked. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
It is historically accurate. The scholarship that's backing up the FBA is complete tomfoolery. Now, see, they get mad at me for that, Doc. They get mad at me for saying that, one, that's not a curated museum. That's not hate. That's the truth, right?
That is hate. He just trying to say that so people don't think it is. But we with that black FBA mindset, we know better than that. We know that you hating and you a pure opposition.
Place where healthy black people can go look at some people that they admire and stuff, and I think that's dope. But it's not a damn museum, and it does not.
See, what he basically saying, family, is he don't want us representing our FBA lineage. He wants us to be vague, generic Africans, to where though people could come in and easily exploit our group, and damn that, because we ain't letting our FBA ancestors, and their legacy, along with the positive things that we done, in building America, and we ain't gonna let that be erased. You know what I mean? That's what he's mad about. That we ain't, saying that we some generic Africans and we ain't letting our contributions be chalked up in the air to where everybody can grab it under the pan-Africanism banner. Saying that we all equal. No, the fact is we're extraordinary people. No one stood on the kind of business we stood on, and the fact that we stood on that kind of business is why everybody could bring their narrow, musty asses over here to America. But let's continue.
Contain our historical history. I'm looking for the level. I'm sitting amongst the level. I would expect no more or less out of them too if they claim themselves to open up a damn museum or they claim themselves to promote STEM. I expect them to do just that. Promote the damn STEM. So I want to say this very, very clear. Just because you howling, screaming, FBA, we're Lineage, nobody's listening to that crap. Nobody would.
Yeah, they are, because the fact that you crying, mad, and disgruntled on the internet lets us know that what we doing by representing the lineage, picking up the soil, is gaining, massive headway. This is why everybody's so mad, frustrated, and disgruntled, because people don't attack something that ain't making headway. They'll just leave it alone if it ain't doing what it's set out there to do. But let's continue.
Any sense? Nobody with a doctorate degree, no real African American who can read and write past their damn hand is thinking that shit's slick. Now,
you want us to be generic Africans to where though people could come over here and exploit us and ride our wave off of success.
Of course, I love the people that call themselves that, but the FBA ain't no more different than an African American. You know why? They come from the same damn place. Where's that place? Mother Africa. How did they get here? On the slave ship. What do they call it?
And that's been debunked. He want us, to look back, to some, ancient African dynasty. He's trying to put out the false narrative that all black people came to America on a slave ship, and that's been debunked even by some, white scholars, that told the truth. You know what I mean? There were, black people in America before the slave trade, and that just is what it is. You know what I mean? But I ain't gonna let this whole video play. But in closing, family, anybody coming with pan-Africanism now, we got to look at them and question their motives, because more often than not, they got ulterior motives, even if they FBA and, from the lineage. Just my thoughts on the matter, but this FBA train is coming through, and the fact that people are crying, mad, and disgruntled on the internet lets you know the positive headway we gaining, because people don't cry and, be this mad, frustrated, disgruntled about things that ain't impactful or out here making a statement. Just my thoughts on the matter, but the FBA train is coming through, and ain't a damn thing anyone or anybody could do about it. Just my thoughts on the matter. Peace.